It may not seem like it right now, but with a vocal minority really not liking the pacing of the current arc in Chainsaw Man, which is fair, I value their perspective and understand it wholeheartedly, I think even the most bummed out and joyful Chainsaw Man fans can agree that the future is looking mighty bright for your fellow Chainsaw Man brothers and sisters. Recently, I saw Johnny Two Cellos talk about a similar subject regarding the Adult Swim lineup. Seeing as I appreciate his voice talent and influence in his community, it got me thinking and even questioning what Chainsaw Man's future would look like. Sometimes I feel like people see me as the guy who is always positive about Chainsaw Man and will defend it to the death, while others just see me as a content creator who yells into a mic every week about Yoru's giant butt, coping when it comes to my favorite character returning anytime now, or simply appreciating Chainsaw Man when all of the depressing, monotonous, and functionally useless discourse we see about this series week after week overwhelms and floods the community in spotlight. But I think if we zoom out, pulling back further and further and look at things from this bigger and more grandiose perspective, guys, Chainsaw Man fans have it so damn good right now, and it's time to start appreciating it. For example, in the not too distant future, we will be going to theaters with a smuggled in candy and drinks, which I do not condone, wink wink, sitting down with our fellow Chainsaw Man brothers and sisters to watch the Reze Bomb Girl arc movie from one of the best studios in anime right now, MAPPA. The trailers thus far have shown that the quality is unlike anything we've even seen in Season 1, which was already just so damn great. I mean, just look at this. You cannot tell me MAPPA isn't cooking up something amazing here. So let me remind you just who is working on this project to shore up those positive feelings. So first off, we have the director Tatsuya Yoshihara, and I must admit, I dropped Black Clover 4 episodes into the series. I know, but I actually really appreciate that series a lot because of its openings, its character designs, and especially director Yoshihara-san. He also directed episode 4 and episode 10 of Chainsaw Man, which were when Aki first uses Kun, and is also the episode where Denji holds power as he tells her he is going to touch her breast no matter what and succeed. Which, despite the context, is one of the best moments acting-wise from Season 1. On top of that, episode 10 is considered to be one of, if not the best episodes of Season 1. This is the fallout episode from Himeno's death, Himeno's letter, and Operation Super Smart. Now, I know you guys are going to be gushing over this one. The script is from Hiroshi Seko, and you'll know him as the GOAT behind Vinland Saga Season 1 and 2. Now, on top of this, Hiroshi Seko is writing the script for this film. He's behind some of your favorite anime, having written most of the scripts for Attack on Titan, namely the first 16 episodes of the final season, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, Chainsaw Man Season 1, Vinland Saga Seasons 1 and 2, along with Dandadan Season 1, which is on the cusp of airing its next core. Make sure to subscribe to my main channel and my Hey It's Me C channel for weekly coverage. Character design, however, is from Kazutaka Sugiyama. He did the designs for Mushoku Tensei, Chainsaw Man Season 1. The main animator is Shoichi. He's new to the project. He also did second key animation for Look Back, another Tatsuki Fujimoto story, which, by the way, if you didn't see it yet, you should, because it's great. Probably one of the best anime of the last 25 years. Now, this may be controversial to some, as people complained up and down that Chainsaw Man looked too much like the films that inspired its look in the manga. I think that controversy was obviously overblown and very antithetical to the identity of Chainsaw Man, but I am sure just saying that will get people fired up in the comments. I have no idea why, but apparently saying Chainsaw Man Season 1 had good colors is like setting a house of cats on fire. The editing is from Masato Yoshitake, who did Dungeon Meshi, another good one. And then the music is from Kensuke Yoshido, and honestly, I don't have to tell you, recently he did the Dandadan music as an example. This guy's really high demand. He's basically the new generation's... Oh god, who is it? Who is that guy that did the AOT score? Oh god, I am actually blanking right now. Someone put in the comments below. But that's not the only thing to be excited about as a Chainsaw Man fan. We may be getting a Chainsaw Man Season 2 announcement shortly after, or even at the very end of the Reze arc film. Who knows, they may even announce it during the initial preview screenings. Now, there is actually precedent for this. If you'll recall, every anime does this now. That's the precedent, right? Frieren did it at the end of Season 1, Vinland Saga did it at the end of every one of their seasons. Basically, all of our favorite modern anime, in some form or fashion, are very quick now to let people know that a new series is on the way. This is because, I'm going to let you in on a little bit of an industry secret here, anime is working in the format of old media, which is to 12 to 24 episode seasons released weekly, then released later on in Blu-ray or DVD form with those awful volumes that are way overpriced, you know. Looking at you, Aniplex and Sony. Unlike more modern series going for the binge format, which is also very flawed, I think much worse than the DVD season format. I mean, look at what it did to our girl Jolene Cujo when Netflix released JoJo in that 12-episode chunks instead of the weekly format that literally everyone wanted. But the silver lining is that not many series these days can just end a season and leave their next season unconfirmed. People will just assume it's over and move on, which is why we are now seeing multiple seasons being confirmed at the end of these anime. It's to remind the fans that more is on the way because the news media moves insanely fast now. On top of that, we had a leak from years ago, I forget what it was. I'll try to put it on the screen now. God, I am so bad with this rant here, I'm sorry. But this shows MAPPA originally planned Season 1 of Chainsaw Man to be 2 cours, covering many more arcs past the Reze arc, which is what we're finally getting in movie form. On top of that, it should constantly be reminded that Chainsaw Man is MAPPA's passion project. Despite the studio's mismanagement during that time, the studio and its people actually wanted to work on this series. Everything about Season 1 was done the way that they wanted, and they had 100% creative control, along with Tatsuki Fujimoto working with the studio. And it's not that far off to say that while this isn't a situation like Hajime Isayama, basically being a full-time staffer working on the Attack on Titan anime with MAPPA and WIT Studios, it is kind of close to that in some ways. But the main point I am trying to make here is that I would bet good money, whatever that means today, that Chainsaw Man Season 2 is a foregone conclusion, and so should a full adaptation of Part 1 story along with Part 2, and possibly a Part 3. We'll get into that in just a moment. And once people see this Reze film, and once the anime onlys get a taste of Quan Chi and the girls and Makima and Aki, we will see Chainsaw Man become, once again, the most talked about anime series on planet Earth. I have zero doubts about that. That is, unless they completely nail the kaiju arc in Dawn to Dawn. We'll see. Some hefty competition Chainsaw Man is facing, but I think the story, its characters, and the narrative are just too strong for this not to be on the level of at least a Jujutsu Kaisen or Attack on Titan. This brings us to the manga, which, as you already know, the discourse in this community can be very insufferable, unreadable, and simply unhelpful generally and relatively. But the more I think about it, especially with the pace of this current arc being chapter after chapter of moments that, let's say if we adapted into anime form, one chapter on average might be a couple of minutes of anime at most, that's weird. We have never really seen Fujimoto slow down Chainsaw Man to this extent. I would say Part 2 is basically just as fast-paced as Part 1, so why is he doing this now? Some speculate he doesn't exactly know where the story is headed, which, I don't think there's any chance of that, seeing as how everything is being set up, the constant callbacks that have been so on point narratively, the setups he's had with Fumiko, Yoshida, Fami, Death, and Fire, there is just way too much going on for this not to have been planned out. And that doesn't even bring up Best Girl Asamitaka and Worst Girl Yoru and the stuff surrounding the weapons and Tokyo and etc, etc, etc. I think Fujimoto is planning something big though, and I think that is ending Part 2 in a year or two and wrapping up Chainsaw Man as a whole with Chainsaw Man Part 3. There is some logic behind this and a lot of feelings mixed in to be crystal clear. Call it cope, which is maybe what it is. Call it whatever your heart desires, which is probably cope. But Chainsaw Man Part 1, 2, and 3 would follow the typical pacing of sequels. And as we know, Fujimoto is a massive fan of American media and our classic Hollywood film tropes, especially Hollywood's fixation on trilogies. If we look at the way Part 1 and Part 2 have been set up, is it not oddly familiar to a film trilogy? Typically in Hollywood trilogies, the first film is the most bombastic, the freshest, the most fun, and explores a lot of the world while also setting up the main threats in the plot. The second film is usually noticeably slower, maybe a little more somber, takes time to develop characters, more dialogue, introducing new characters, and exploring the setting more thoroughly. Then there is the third in the trilogy, which is always a massive blowout with spectacles you get from the first film combined with the payoffs of the slower, more methodical build of the second film, paying off all of its characters in its arcs and creating an overall very satisfying and complete conclusion. Now I ask, does that not fit the description of Chainsaw Man Part 1 and Part 2 thus far? I don't know, but it is something to think about, so comment down below. Do you think Chainsaw Man's future is bright? If not, share your perspective while being respectful, down to earth, and human with the rest of us humans. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.